Hi, I'm Janos Wilder, chef and owner of Downtown Kitchen and Cocktails and the Carriage House, both in downtown Tucson. Today we're in the Carriage House where I'm going to show you how to cook with oyster mushrooms. These are from the Sonoran Mushroom Company and they are fantastic. Today I'm going to teach you how to cook with roasted oyster mushrooms. We're going to prepare the mushrooms in the oven, and then we're going to serve them on a mascarpone polenta with a Madeira sauce, a lovely mushroom brodo or mushroom broth, and raisins that we plumped in port. Terrific dish. We're going to be roasting the oyster mushrooms. These are the blue oyster mushrooms. I'm going to roast these, then I'm going to serve them on top of creamy polenta with a little Madeira sauce, and around the polenta, a little mushroom brodo. So we've actually made a broth out of the mushrooms. So you're going to have the mushrooms in two different ways. It's fantastic. You're going to love that. And then I took some raisins and I plumped the raisins in port wine. That means I cooked them in port wine so they just sort of plumped up, took on the flavor of the port. We're going to drizzle some of that port and the raisins around this. And we harvested some flowers. We picked some flowers this morning from our garden at the Children's Museum. We're going to garnish this with some flowers. So we're just going to take the mushrooms. That's this big clump of mushrooms right here. I'm just going to use that clump. This is extra virgin Italian olive oil, so the first cold pressing from the olives. Salt. A little bit of pepper. Some garlic. And I'm just going to toss this, sort of make almost a dressing out of the olive oil and the garlic. Salt and pepper, so we just coat the outside of this really well. We've got that how we want it. Now this oven's at 375 degrees. Just place, you actually get the sizzle there too. You can see that it's kind of hot. That's what we want. And then we're going to roast these mushrooms. Won't take long. Now remember, these oyster mushrooms are like 80% water, so it's not going to take a long time to cook. 5 to 12 minutes at 375, so we're just going to let them go in there. What's going to happen there while they're cooking is some of that liquid, some of that water that's in the mushrooms is going to evaporate. It's going to cook off in the form of steam inside the oven. It'll stay nice and moist, but they're going to shrivel just a little bit, and they're going to intensify in flavor. And then they're going to coat, the oil and the garlic is sort of coating the outside leaves or petals of the mushrooms. That's going to give them a little bit of crispy texture on the outside. And then with all these other flavors we're working with, it's just going to, the whole thing's going to come together and be delicious and beautiful. So they've been in here for, 10 to 12 minutes, 375 degrees. Important to note, when you're working with these mushrooms, you always want to cook the mushrooms. That's important. It brings out their flavor, it brings out their nutrients, and it's the way you need to cook them. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. Oh my gosh. Okay, all right, I'm going to just stick that up there for a second. And now, so I said, so these are roasted mushrooms, so we roasted the mushrooms with polenta. So this is Italian sort of cornmeal. This is a creamy polenta. We used a little mascarpone in this. Oh, that's perfect, perfect. And now the mushrooms themselves, just like flower petals, right? And we'll get to the real flower petals in a minute. So we've got our polenta, we've got our roasted mushrooms. This is a brodo. It's a mushroom broth. So we cook down mushrooms, lots of stems from the mushrooms themselves, and water, and vegetables, and we just simmered them for about 3 hours till all the flavor came out. We've got the color from the mushrooms coming out as well. Then we strained them. So we're reinforcing mushroom flavor. So this brodo, this broth, goes around that. And now, one of my favorite sauces, this is a Madeira sauce. So Madeira is a wine that's really deep and rich in flavor. It's not wine that's usually for drinking, although it makes some great Madeiras. They make really great sipping Madeiras. This wine is also great in sauces because it gives it really rich flavor. So we reduce the Madeira with shallots and garlic, reduce that down, a little bit of cream, reduce it a little more. That's all we need there. Okay, now I was telling you earlier about the raisins plumped in port. So we take raisins, dark raisins, and we just poach them in port wine. It's a sweet wine, reinforces the sweetness and the raisins, and just adds this great texture and flavor to this dish. A little bit of the reducing liquid there. So now we're going to gild the lily. This looks pretty good as it is, but not good enough. So we took these, we went over to our garden at the Children's Museum this morning. We picked some flowers, all edible blossoms, of course. These are snapdragons. And there we have it. Roasted blue oyster mushrooms, creamy polenta, Madeira sauce, a mushroom brodo, the raisins that we plump with port, and just a little bit of beautiful flowers for a little love at the end.